Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brian Ride Mechanic channel. How the heck are you doing today? Alright, today's show I want to talk about the death we had at Stardust Racers over there at Epic Universe. So let's get into that.
Now get ready. Here we go.
Alright, so first of all, this is a tough topic to talk about. It's obviously one of the worst things in the industry that could pretty much happen. Thoughts and prayers go out to the family, that's for sure. Pretty much the worst thing, the unthinkable thing happened, right? This person went out to the amusement park to have a fun time and didn't return home at the end of the day. And that's nothing that should be taken lightly. It's a serious subject, but I'm here to try to address some things that I've seen. So let's recap this a little bit. Okay, so Wednesday evening, I'm reading some notes here. So Wednesday evening, Kevin Rodriguez Zavala, age 32, boarded Stardust Racers. When it left the station, he was doing fine. When it came back, he was unconscious and bleeding. Ops evacuated the station. Paramedics were called. They arrived. People had jumped a queue line and started CPR, life-saving procedures, basically. Kevin was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. There is no cell phone footage or anything like that from this area because this is one of those rides where they take everything off the people and you can't have a cell phone or video cameras or anything up there recording on that platform. So it's not allowed, so there was no footage of it. Let's talk about the ride itself real quick. What is Stardust Racers? Stardust Racers is a dual launch coaster located in Epic Universe in the Celestial Park area. Opened up this year in 2025 with the park. It's a brand new attraction. Manufactured by Mack Rides. Mack Rides. It's a dual LSM launch, racing over 5,000 feet of track, 62 miles per hour, 133 foot is the highest it goes. It's divided up into two sides, basically, Photon and Pulsar. 5 cars per train, riders sit 2 across, total of 20 riders per train. Okay, so the ride's been closed since September 17th because they've been doing this investigation. And that's when the accident happened. So one of the questions is, was there anything like this in the past with this ride? Obviously, it's the first year this had opened up. In Florida down there, the parks do their own self-investigations as to any time there's injuries or anything like that happens, which means that they're under good faith to report it to the city, state, where it happens so they can get the correct stats out there. But basically, the city and state are going to intervene with their own investigative team. There has been 2 past incidences that everyone keeps listing. I really don't consider them much of anything. Let's see. On June 22nd, 63-year-old man experienced dizziness and confusion after riding the ride. The same thing happens when you're dehydrated. I don't look at that as a problem. June 24th, 47-year-old female experienced visual disturbance and numbness. Again, people ride roller coasters and stuff when they get dehydrated. And once you rid your body of its proper hydration, it starts doing all sorts of weird things. What happened after this is a lot of people contacted me and said, hey, did you hear that this happened? It's like, yes, I heard that happened. Are you going to make a video about this? I'm like, yeah, I'll probably make a video about this when the time is right. And this is now, it's almost been a week later, so I've honestly been waiting for the right time. And I don't even think right now is the right time because I'm still waiting for information. So what happened is they did this, the coroner's report came out, said that the thing was ruled as an accident. Okay. What's that mean? It's like, well, they don't think foul play was involved, or they don't think that there was such gross negligence on the park that there might be criminal problems with it. Okay. So this was an accident. How did the person die? How did Kevin die? Well, he died of multiple blunt force trauma. Okay. Where was the trauma located? Well, they didn't say. Okay, well, Did he do something to himself? Was it on the head, the chest, the legs? Like, I heard there was bleeding from the head, but no real lacerations. How did this trauma get there? They didn't say. It's like, well, what was the source of the trauma? Didn't say. I'm assuming they talked with everybody on the train and nobody in that area was like, we saw something come off. We saw like this happen. We heard screaming. We heard a part break. Nothing like that. In fact, Universal recently came out and said that the ride did perform as it was supposed to. It was operating as it's supposed to. And there was no problem with the ride. There was no problem with the equipment. Okay. All right. So I have very, very, very little experience with this stuff firsthand, okay? The 14 years I was working at the amusement park, I dealt with 2 fatalities that happened related to the park. The first one was a person having trouble breathing. They were transported. They died after riding on a ride, and it was because they had actually a pre-existing condition. Kevin had a pre-existing condition as well, but they had some sort of pre-existing condition, and they had an aneurysm, or the aneurysm ruptured while they were on the ride, and they died. The second one was a person that had ridden a particular ride. They went to first aid afterwards complaining of a headache. They were transported to the hospital. They later died at the hospital because of, again, an aneurysm. Now, aneurysms are really hard to detect by doctors. Sometimes they might know that you have one. It might not be ruptured, but sometimes they just rupture, and a lot of times it's fatal. So when this happens, the first thing that happens, obviously, is the ride is shut down. Whatever it is. The ride, I don't care what ride it is, the ride is shut down. And then the park is waiting. The park is waiting because, honestly, when a ride's shut down, it's treated just like a crime scene. There was plenty of news and photos and stuff going around of the police there taking pictures of the ride, of the area, of the vehicle where the person was sitting. Like, we don't even have the information of where the person was sitting, front of the train, back of the train. We do know that this was I believe it was the 6th lap of the day on there. So they've actually already ridden the ride. This was their 6th time. So it doesn't sound like anything. This was not like a first-time rider that had no clue what was going on. So there's a lot of stuff in this accident that just doesn't line up for me. It's like, the source of the blunt force trauma, it's like, where did that come from? And then the fact that they already put 5 laps on the ride, it's like, well, is this something that happened on previous laps? Previous rides? They had some sort of a spinal condition, and I'm not going to get into the spinal condition, that sort of stuff. That's not my area, but it is one source. It is one thing that the community in general, this will become a hot topic. It always does. So what happens is, after this, and they say the person had a pre-existing condition, then the industry always shifts backwards to like, oh, should that person have ridden? And there's always tons of people that say, yes, that person should have ridden, and no, that person shouldn't have ridden it. And it is a slippery slope, and it's one I encourage everybody to stay off of. Do not go down that path. It is a bad thing. Don't open it up. It is a massive can of worms that no one can put the lid on. It's not a can of worms. It's like Pandora's box. It's like, don't open Pandora's box. It's like, leave that one alone. All the park could do is say, here's the warning signs. If you don't meet this criteria, don't ride it. And then personally, I'd say as a rider, the responsibility is 100% on your shoulders, okay? If I break my arm and I want to go on the ride, then I know the signage is there saying that, hey, you should not ride if you have broken limbs. And then that responsibility is on me saying like, hey, if I want to ride it with a broken arm, I'm going to ride it with a broken arm. I don't expect any park to get on my way. But in my way, I'm sorry. But If after that ride, that arm that was healing releases something inside my blood, and then that goes up and causes a clot in my heart, and I have a heart attack from that, I also expect wholeheartedly that I cannot go after, or my family cannot go after that park for letting me on that ride. And this is, like I said, it's a charged subject. Please just don't go down this path. Don't start arguing individual ridership. It is not a good thing. Please stay away from it at all levels. Don't engage with that sort of thing. It's bad. It's a slippery slope. Pandora's box. Leave it alone, please. All right. So the park had the best response. It was, they checked the ride. They made sure everything was good. And they said, okay, the ride is not at fault. But they didn't open up the ride either. So typically that is the last thing. Once the park says, okay, there's nothing wrong with the ride, and governing bodies say, yes, there's nothing wrong with the ride, you typically have insurance or an external inspector come in and check the ride over again and say, yeah, you're right, nothing's wrong with the ride. At that point, the ride's typically given a green light, whether it be internally or externally. The green light is given and the ride is placed back into operation. But Universal hasn't done that yet. They said, okay, the ride wasn't malfunctioning. Nope, ride wasn't malfunctioning. Okay. And the person died of blunt force trauma. Yep, they did. But there's a disconnect between those two statements, and I think that is the reason why Stardust Racers hasn't opened yet. Although it's going to take me a day to edit this video together. But they haven't opened it yet. So, in my mind, I think, which is a lot of people's thoughts here as well, that there's a disconnect between this blunt force trauma that happened and the ride functioning okay. And the disconnect is we still don't know anything. We still don't know what happened. Blunt force trauma, okay, I understand that. Man, that sucks. Don't wish that on anybody. But why? How? Where? What happened? And this is the fundamental question that has not been answered yet. The reports didn't answer it. So far, the police, the governing bodies haven't answered it. And I think this is the reason why the ride hasn't reopened as of right now. This is Monday evening as I'm recording this. I think that's the main reason why nothing's been reopened yet. Because even though they say, yeah, the ride's functioning, but somebody in that chain is still sitting there going, but how did this happen? I've had people ask me, well, don't they have video cameras and recording on rides that, so they can always watch a train? The majority of parks do not have video systems watching the train. And the parks that do have video systems watching the train, it's for reasons for like clearing block zones and things like that. Typically, there's video cameras in block zones to make sure that people are in the train when they reset that block, and they're not getting out of the train. So there's that. But those are typically static internally, which means they're not being recorded. They're simply just sitting there watching. Some parks do record that. They do record that on like a 1 week loop of data, just recording over itself. But most parks do not, and they don't have cameras just sitting there just watching the train run. But during this whole time, there was also no like, hey, something came off. Hey, something hit this person. There's been a report of there was something on the person's seat. But if you are not experienced with that equipment from that manufacturer and know all the parts and pieces to it and everything else, that could have easily been something else. That could have been something placed there by one of the attendants. It could have been a manual release mechanism. It could have been a lot of things, if it was even there. There was a lot of stuff that happened in that very short amount of time from the time that train came back in the station and the time they made everybody clear the platform. So I think as I watch, lots of videos myself and I'm watching everyone's synopsis, they come back with the exact same thing. Here's the facts. Here's what we know. And that's the end of the video. And then they go, oh, we have an update. Here's the facts. Here's what we know. End of the video. And all this stuff, I still haven't seen the problem come out. And I don't think there's a problem with the ride. I think the ride's perfectly fine and safe. I still want to know what happened, though. I still want to know what that person What happened? How did they get multiple blunt force trauma? Right? Multiple blunt force trauma is what I expect if someone was hit repeatedly with a baseball bat. And looking at the design of the seat with how the restraint comes over and holds you down at the waist, which is a very quite common thing. I mean, those aren't new trains either. Like, Mac's been using those all over the place. So they're not like brand new. It's not a brand new design where something weird is happening. It's a tested method. It's out there. It's working. But we didn't get any of that. So this is one of the reasons I don't think any channel really has really gone out there and said, hey, this is really what's going on, because everyone, myself included, is sitting there in this paused state going, we don't know what's going on. Right? This is a piece, this is a puzzle. We have a bunch of pieces of the puzzle. We start putting them together. Here's a time, date. This is what happened. Here's what we know. Here's the coroner's report. And there's still one or two puzzle pieces missing that once we put them in, we'll go like, oh, and that happened. But we don't know. There's too much speculation at this point. So this is the video that I didn't want to make, because this is like, I have really nothing to add to this sense. I mean, I added like how a park recovers from this, where we have external bodies come in and say, yep, the ride's good. Yes, okay, let's open the ride back up. But I think what we're missing in that particular scenario to fulfill that is the thing that says, yes, that, you know, for aneurysm, the 2 aneurysm cases we had, it was pretty cut and dry. They had an aneurysm, wasn't really caused by the ride. Aneurysms just happen. They can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. Just one of those things of life. So it's like, this is still, I mean, in my mind, this is still a mystery. Sure, we have a cause of death, and we have that the ride was functioning, but there's still something missing, and we don't know what it is. Sorry I'm rambling on, but this is, anyone that's contacted me about this and asked thoughts, I've said the same thing. I'm like, this is confusing. I don't know why this hasn't been resolved yet, either with, hey, this is what's happened, or we found this out or found that. But like, blunt force trauma, what did they hit? If it was to their head, which I'm assuming it was to the head, I'm not sure. He has spinal issues, but I don't think that had anything to do with the blunt force trauma. It's like, did he somehow fold over and repeatedly hit his head? If so, on what? Because everything is padded. Everything within arm's reach is padded on those rides. Even the sides, you know, like the seats, they kind of wrap around, and they're still padded. I don't know. I don't know on this one. But a lot of people have been asking for feedback on this, and I didn't want to do something that was just 100% speculation, but we kind of had a little bit more. Not much. It's not great. It's not great at all. There's just a little bit more information now, but I'm honestly still waiting. I'm hopefully within this next week. I'm sure once we get a little bit more information, that will probably be when Universal reopens the ride. But I think they're kind of like I am right now. They're waiting for, like, they still want to know how this actually happened. And I'm sure, like, Mac Rides is going back out there as well, so they can talk with them about it. Knee-jerk reactions is the big wrap-up from these things. Hey, what's the knee-jerk reaction going to be? It's like, knee-jerk reactions a lot of times are bad things, because that's when they will start digging into those policies and procedures, and now they will want to question everybody about everything. That's why I said that's Pandora's box. Don't open it. Let people make the decision. You posted the signs, great. Let people make the decision if they want to ride the ride. Don't put it back onto the park, because the more the park defines that who is healthy and not healthy and all that sort of stuff, the more they define that, the more they become liable, which means the more stringent it becomes. And it's really, again, it's not a good thing. Leave that alone. Okay, I've rambled on too long about this. Again, my thoughts and prayers go out with the family. Life is precious. It's nothing to be lost, especially when you're just out trying to have fun. Yeah, that's going to do it for me. I'm Ryan the Ride Mechanic. Stay off the air gates. Bye.